clear that the pandemic has hit our metropolises and we are finding ourselves in very peculiar times. When the School of Sustainability at IDC and the Urban Policy team at ORF started planning this conference way back in December, it seemed that we were recovering and moving into a post-pandemic situation, and therefore the theme. 4 months later, it has emerged that Tel Aviv is on its way to recovery, with the IDC school just opening up real-time to students just yesterday, and most of the population in Israel immunized. On the other hand, Mumbai is grappling with a second and more stronger wave of infections, and a massive vaccination program is underway. And therefore, it emerged in our discussion that no matter which stage of the pandemic we are sitting in, our cities are evolving physically, socially, and economically. There is a post-pandemic scenario which will emerge with common global challenges like health, technology, socio-economic inclusion, looking at the built environment, and climate emergency. The solutions of which will come from the experiences and learnings of these metropolises, which will help us chart the path ahead. While there cannot be any comparison between Mumbai and Tel Aviv metropolitan regions in terms of its size, densities, population, and scale of urban development, yet there is a common goal: to move towards more resilient and sustainable urban futures, which this conference aims to explore. Now, let me invite my colleague and Director ORF Mumbai, Akshay Mathur, to give his welcome remarks.
Thank you so much, Saini. Good morning. My name is Akshay. I'm the Director of Observer Research Foundation, Mumbai. I also head the ORF Geoeconomics program across all the centers. I welcome you on behalf of the Observer Research Foundation. I'm delighted to partner with IDC. It is an organization that Saini has spoken about with great admiration for a long time. You might know that ORF has a long history of an urban policy program. Saini here has led that program along with colleagues from the side, Dr. Ramraja, who I'm sure you will get to hear as the day progresses. So we are very proud of the urban policy initiative. I hope you get to read some of our research. I hope your researchers will get a chance to interact with our researchers. I'm delighted to have participation also from the administration in Mumbai as well as Israel. Mr. 𝙄𝙣𝙖𝙪𝙧𝙖𝙪, looking forward to hearing from you, as well as Mr. Rajeev, Commissioner of MMRDA. Thank you for joining us. I just want to give a special thanks to Tamar and Nathan from IDC, who have been our counterparts and have planned this diligently and patiently. So with that, I give it back to you, Saini, and I look forward to the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Akshay. Let me now invite Professor 𝙄𝙣𝙖𝙪𝙧𝙖𝙀, Dean, School of Sustainability, IDC 𝙬𝙧𝙧, to welcome the participants and lay the stone for the day.
Hi, good morning, everyone here in Israel, and good afternoon in India, fellow colleagues. I'm really, I would say, excited to have this opportunity to greet all of you. It is a unique, I hope it's the first of a series of meetings that will emerge as this collaboration goes on. The School of Sustainability at IDC had already been in close collaboration with the City of Mumbai and with ORF and with the University of Mumbai. We've organized 2 student expeditions already. Alas, this year we had to cancel because of the pandemic, the global kind of showstopper that really put humanity a red alert sign of consequences of what was happening health-wise, sustainability-wise in this planet. So I want to thank, first of all, Saini, Nati Marom, and Tamar, all the course, 𝙍𝙬𝙪𝙧𝙧𝙧𝙧, for their warm welcome and collaborative efforts to come up with this unique international conference that is open to everyone, hopefully to our students, your students as well, decision makers, politicians, journalists, everyone who's interested. And as you mentioned, the comparison is kind of tilted a little bit. When I was in Mumbai in 2016, I was amazed and utterly engulfed by this huge metropolis, and I understood the fascination of such a huge, complex, interesting, exciting metropolis, how it can offer us a learning field for our students, which come from a small country, a well-developed country, a startup nation. But when we teach sustainability, the realization of the magnitude of problems that are faced by a country such as India or a city such as Mumbai is extremely valuable to our students. And as I said, we really hope to learn together to overcome this huge obstacle in our future, which is the pandemic, because we have larger ones right ahead of it, and the climate crisis already occurring in the Middle East and felt in Israel, and to some extent maybe also in India, in the subcontinent itself. So thank you everyone for taking part in the organization, the execution. And I know the huge amount of work put up by Nati and the team from ORF in the last 24 hours trying to tackle all those technical issues. But technology is working. Hopefully we will have a fruitful and interesting day. And thank you everyone for taking part in this project.
Thank you, Professor Yer, for those kind words. And yes, we are looking forward to taking this association steps ahead. We have two very special guests today, and I cannot thank them enough for putting their strength behind this conference. May I invite His Excellency, Dr. Ron Malka, Israel Ambassador to India, to give a special address.
Good afternoon, Ambassador 𝙍𝙬𝙪𝙧𝙧𝙧, dear guests and participants. It gives me immense pleasure to speak about the last year, what we've been through, and especially what we did together, Israel and India, under this pandemic, because I will start with that Israel and India, from my point of view, can be the shining example for other countries in the world for how two countries can work together, collaborate, and support each other. Because one of the things that this pandemic, which we just lived through and still is not over, taught us that we should know how to work together, how to collaborate, how to support each other. I'm talking between countries and communities, because we now understand that some of the challenges and the threats are global ones. And unless we will know how to collaborate and to work together, we will not be effective enough in facing these challenges. Under this pandemic, Israel and India supported each other in many ways and aspects, but one shining example for a very successful collaboration is the joint research that we did for a rapid test for COVID-19. Scientists from Israel and India joined forces and efforts, and in one stage, the scientists from Israel just came to India to collaborate, to work with their counterparts here in India, and we managed to take within 9 days 25,000 samples for this research. I think this is, of course, outstanding, but I just realized that when other ambassadors just reach out to me and ask me, how did you manage to do it so successfully? And this is exactly the collaboration that we are looking for, the way to work together. And I told them, this has not started today. The chemistry, the teamwork between Israel and India has started much before. The collaboration, the joint research on many aspects of science and technology started before. We know each other, we know how to work with each other. So under this pandemic, we could just utilize this experience. And this goes both for the national, of course, the urban and the metropolitan lessons that we should understand and hear and learn. And after that, just implement. Because on different levels of national levels and urban levels, we have understood what are the gaps that we need to fill in and how we can be prepared, much more prepared to any other challenges that might come. And it's basically about becoming more digital, building the right digital platforms, gathering the right data that we need, the systems and I would say mechanism that we need to utilize this data, to analyze it, and of course to learn and to be able to react and to bring solutions, creative and immediate solutions for any challenge that might come. One more thing that I can share with you is that during this pandemic, we shared with India all the medical devices and systems and equipment that they already developed during the pandemic to fight the pandemic. Those that were found useful, we could bring and just share them yet and implement. We shared it with Thames Hospital, with Primus Hospital, leading hospitals in India. They just got this and implemented it, these devices in their practices and work, and it was found so effective. And this is the way how we should work together and collaborate. And of course, now that we know what is needed in order to face the next challenge, we can be much more prepared. So this joint effort and collaboration should still go on, be steadily and on day-to-day basis. It will prepare us much better with the desired platforms, but also will give us the practices and experience that we need to work together, to understand each other, and to bring much added value to each other. Thank you so much for inviting me. I wish you a very constructive discussion and talks, and have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Malka. I would now like to invite His Excellency 𝙍𝙖𝙪𝙧𝙖𝙡, Indian Ambassador to Israel, to give a special address.
And Shalom. I'm very happy to learn about this initiative by the Observer Research Foundation and the Interdisciplinary Center at Herzliya to host a virtual conference focusing on how our metropolises can learn from the last 1 year of the pandemic and prepare for similar pandemics in the future. Not only is it a timely initiative, but also a proactive one that would help take forward the collaboration between India and Israel on pandemic resilience. India and Israel, you would be aware, are strategic partners, and deepening their cooperation, especially in priority areas like innovation and those related to fundamental shifts happening around us. Enhancing our abilities to tackle a pandemic is one such priority area, given the challenges posed by a pandemic and the two countries' relative scientific strengths. Both our prime ministers have been in regular touch during COVID-19, and they gave directions to both our sides to pool our efforts in order to tackle this pandemic strictly. On our side, this effort has been spearheaded at the level of Principal Scientific Advisor to the Prime Minister, and at the Israeli end, it has been led by the head of Israel's Directorate of Defense Research and Development. And as a result, our two countries have collaborated on all the 4 components spanning the spectrum of the pandemic, namely personal protection equipment, diagnostic tests, tools to forecast spatial spread, and vaccines and other therapies. We supplied each other some personal protection equipment when it was required. We are coordinating to validate and calibrate quick, non-invasive diagnostic tests. We are exploring how to deploy AI and other tools to forecast the pandemic, and our companies are collaborating on potential vaccines for COVID-19. Now, given the disruptive impact of such pandemics on our urban centers, given the huge contribution these urban centers make to our economies, given the high density of population in these urban centers, and given the unique challenges inherent in managing the flow of people, goods, services, and data in these urban centers during a pandemic, it's crucial that we lean on our urban management experts and policymakers to learn for the future. And to that end, I'm very happy that this conference has done good preparatory work and distilled 4 themes for attention: technology for metropolitan pandemic management, post-pandemic socio-economic inclusivity, urban planning so as to better utilize our urban assets during a pandemic, and exploring the commonalities and differences between COVID-19 and climate change crisis so as to be able to address adaptation and mitigation challenges. I'm particularly happy to see the involvement of our planners and decision makers from Mumbai. Maharashtra has been at the center of this pandemic in India right from the start. And we at the level of the embassy have been wondering for quite some time now on exchanging best practices and lessons learned from managing highly dense locations during COVID-19, such as Dharavi in Mumbai and the 𝙄𝙣𝙖𝙪𝙬𝙧𝙖𝙡 locality near Delhi. And I see from your program that it includes a representative from 𝙄𝙖𝙬𝙧 municipality as well. Let me end by leaving a thought with you for your last session, in which you plan to explore, among other things, creative use of our streets and public spaces and green spaces. Mumbai has a lot of heritage which has a Jewish connection. In fact, an Israeli historian, Dr. 𝙍𝙚𝙬𝙧𝙖𝙀 has actually documented a trail of such sites for walking tours. Now, all that is left is installation of informative plaques at these sites. It may be useful for you to consider, to the extent possible, whether that heritage can be woven in some meaningful manner in your discussions on the use of urban spaces. I wish you all a very productive conference, and I look forward to feedback after the conference is over. Thank you. Dhanyavad. Ola.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Singla, for those very inspiring ideas that we hope we can take ahead. Now we come to a very important part of the inaugural session, the keynotes, which will actually help us lay down the framework for the day ahead. Let me now invite Mr. R.A.Rajeev, Commissioner, Mumbai Metropolitan Region Development Authority, the MMRDA, to put forth his views on the conference topic. Sir R.A.Rajeev.
Yeah, good morning, Styli, and thank you. Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, good morning, Styli, and good morning, everybody here. I am really thankful to ORF and IDC for inviting me to such an important conference where we can share our views and we can learn from even smaller metropolitan regions across the world, and that too from Israel, which is known for their efficiency and effectiveness in the field. Having said that, let's start with the start of the pandemic. It has been more than a year that pandemic has plagued this world, and whole of the humanity has been affected adversely in all aspects and parts of its lives. So we talk about disruptive thinking, we talk about so many disruptions in life, but there has not been a bigger disruption. There has not been a bigger disruptive thinking as provoked by or as created by this pandemic more than a year back. I still remember when we came to know that China had got some of these pandemic situations in their area in Wuhan. We still felt that no, India can't get affected. That was November, December, or even 1 month earlier to that. But then January came, February came, and we were not at all thinking that India can get affected. We had experience of other pandemics which had not affected India as much, be it Ebola, be it SARS, not so much. So we were not so prepared, and suddenly in March we got this first, it was around Holi that we got first patient of COVID, and coming from, they had gone to Dubai and they came back infected. And since then, this was the first week of March, and I remember 24th March we had the lockdown. So this is how we met with this pandemic. And since then, the whole thinking and practice of urban administration, since I have been in Mumbai Metropolitan Region Development Authority at the helms of affairs, the whole thinking, our thinking about the urban theory as well as practice have gone completely under change. It has been completely disruptive. Not the way we used to think about, not the way management classes say that you should be always thinking about disruptions happening in the way of your planning process, and think about plan B, plan C and plan D. I don't know how many plans we would have made for such disruptions, but I don't think we would have been able to adapt to this situation even before the situation arose in our place. It was so disruptive. Suddenly I remember then that this whole pandemic for the last 1 year or so, let me put now things in perspective, has completely changed our thinking in theory and practice of urban administration. And when I say that, I say this, that if you take all the 4 sectors which you have taken for this seminar, for this conference, be it urban environment and climate change, be it the socio-economic inclusions or socio-economic situations of the citizens of this city or the country or society, be it the management and governance of urban local bodies, and or be it the urban planning and transportation planning of cities. Everywhere, at every level, there have been disruptions, there have been thinking. So let us start one by one and let us go ahead. And in the process, I will pitch in, I will give you examples from Mumbai which may help in the long run to derive some learnings from Mumbai. As rightly you have said that Mumbai and Tel Aviv are at different stages of this pandemic. So maybe this second wave, again, we were initially in a denial process, though we said that, okay, second wave can also come. But when the first wave was subsiding, we were still in a denying process that, okay, second wave can't come to India. And we are in the second wave, which has come with more vengeance than the earlier wave phase. So this is the situation we are in. The urban environment, when the lockdown happened, suddenly we realized that because of the lockdown, the vehicles had reduced on the road almost to negligible, and suddenly the air quality of the cities had improved. So that gave us a completely different learning that if you want to improve the air quality, the biggest polluter, as we already knew about it, that the transportation or the vehicular pollution is the biggest culprit of it. But nobody realized, when I say nobody realized, it's not about the planners and decision makers, it's about the common public who uses the car, who uses the personal vehicles also. They also realize that yes, if vehicles are stopped on the road or reduced on the road, it reduces pollution, air pollution, and the city air becomes much more better to breathe and feel that way. So that type of realization to the common man came with this. And it is very important for our urban planners to have the perceptions of a common man changed to policy decisions, so that you start getting support of a common man for any such policy decisions. So this is one area where I think pandemic has certainly given us a positive result, in that sense that during lockdown the quality of air improved. Even some of the cities have also reported that the quality of water also has improved in their areas during that time. That study is not with me, but somewhere I was reading about it. Coming back to the socio-economic situation and socio-economic inclusion, this pandemic has affected across the board in all sections of society, rich and poor, in the same way. That's true. But at the same time, when we talk about inclusion, this pandemic has basically excluded the poor and a lower state of the urban agglomerations. Urban centers are known for creating employments, giving more employment to the people, and that's why people migrate to the urban centers, and Mumbai is the biggest example, the most apt example for that. So people come to Mumbai in search of jobs. Because of this pandemic, during the lockdown, most of this section, most of population in this section have lost their jobs. And because they have lost their jobs, they have become very, very miserable in urban living. Most of them have also migrated out, but at the same time who are living in a very, very miserable situation. So we have to take care of their situations. Government took some decisions. The Metropolitan MMRDA itself took decisions that those labor forces who were asked not to work on the sites but had to be in the labor camps, they were fed, not only fed, but they were also given stipends. So this type of policy decisions of helping those poorer peoples during the pandemic situation also gave rise to different thinking, and it certainly increased the cost of some of the projects, but at the same time it was necessary that we should not lose the manpower, because as and when we start working again on those projects, we need these manpower. So it's better to invest in these manpowers in times of crisis like this pandemic. So this also happened. So loss of job has been one of the biggest curse of this pandemic, where at the national level also and at the city level and local government level, we'll have to adapt to it, we'll have to think about it, and we'll have to create more policy instruments to help such society. I don't think we have been able to do much in this field, but at the same time, whatever way we could do, we have been doing, and we are trying to help that out. Coming to the third point of management and governance, let me tell you, governance was affected in the sense that offices were also closed, but at the same time, let me tell you that though we stopped coming to offices, but work from home, and more of the internet use of internet, more of remote meetings increased, and MMRDA has almost more than 100 meetings we conducted during the lockdown period of phase 1 online, and our efficiency of decision making and in so many other aspects, it increased. Our monitoring of the projects increased. Barring few 2-3 months of lockdown, later on we started gradually working again on our projects. People started coming back, and those monitorings and those decision makings that increased a lot during even work from home situation because of the digital technology which we have adopted afterwards. At the same time, MMRDA adapted to the e-office situation immediately thereafter, and our efficiency about all the office works, making office paperless almost, has almost realized during this period. So there have been a learning so far as the governance is concerned, and we created a sort of air bubble for us so that the offices we made completely adaptable to the new pandemic situations. So more hygiene, more sanitation, remote touching lifts and all. So all these adaptations in the offices were also done, which helped creating a confidence level amongst our employees, and they started coming to office, and our efficiency has certainly increased during this time of work from home situation. But at the same time, let me tell you, even before this pandemic started, there was a movement of smart cities worldwide, but in India also, the present government had started this smart city movement. That smart city movement got an impetus during this time, and most of these smart city tools were used more effectively during lockdown periods in most of the cities. So these are, I'm just touching these points because there are a lot to talk about all this in this thing. This is fair. Yeah, certainly this has given one more policy implications that the urban local bodies should increase their investments in the health sector a lot. And that too, because that investment in the health sector certainly is going to make the city more livable and attracted by more people to come to Mumbai like cities and work here. So this type of governance challenges and management challenges we faced. Let me also tell you that MMRDA was also responsible initially in the month of April and May to construct 2,000 bed temporary hospitals. We had never done any hospital construction in the past at all. And one day suddenly I was asked that we have to construct a 1,000 bed hospital, and then that hospital we constructed temporarily in right away 14 days time, when all the manufacturing units, all the procurement offices, and everywhere all over India there was a lockdown, and still we were able to construct a temporary hospital of 1,000 beds in straight way 14 days time, which probably we were learning that time that Wuhan had also done that. Just after that, I was again asked by the government, state government, to construct another 1,000 bed hospital with 200 bed ICU facilities. That was also created with ventilators and everything. To this date, when the phase 1 was over, a lot of people were talking about that these temporary hospitals are of no use now when they were almost empty. But government in its own wisdom took a decision that no, till we will wait for all this pandemic to be over, till that time we will not dismantle these temporary hospitals. And I am happy that government took such a decision, great decision. Though it was a costly one, but still now it is working for phase 2 very, very efficiently and effectively. So from MMRDA side, we have learned during these pandemic situations how to adapt ourselves. Though we are an infrastructure development agencies, but we had never done health infrastructure in the past. We were given this challenge and we fulfilled that, and that too in record period of time. So this type of work also gave us a level of confidence that if we are committed, we are dedicated, and we are result oriented, we can also deliver results in completely uncertain and uncertain field where we do not have any expertise or any experience in that field. But that is only possible with the inclusion of, with the collaboration with the civic societies, with the private players, with the NGOs, with the citizens and all. And I'll now come back to my last point of transportation and urban design, which is our favorite, because MMRDA is mostly engaged in development of transportation infrastructure. We are at present doing 337 kilometers of metro construction work in this MMR, and at the same time we are also constructing the Mumbai Trans-Harbour Link, which is 22 kilometer long sea bridge, the longest in India. So and along with that, plethora of other infra projects in the city, mainly in the transportation sector. This pandemic initially and till now has created an adverse impact so far as public transportation is concerned. Public transportations, Mumbai has been originally a public transport place where almost 78 to 80% population used to travel by public transport, and it still travels by public transport till the pandemic happened. But after pandemic, for some time even the public transport the suburban trains were stopped completely, metro was stopped, monorail was stopped, so and buses were also stopped for some time. So the public transport share had decreased, but after the pandemic and during the pandemic, because of the social distancing norms, because of the fear of contacting virus, the commuters have reduced in public transport. It's a fact. At the same time, in Mumbai, number of private car purchasers have gone up. More new cars have been bought in Mumbai in last 1 year. This is the impact of a pandemic in the city of Mumbai so far as commuting is concerned and transportation is concerned. But there, we should not get disheartened, because what MMRDA is doing is creating more than double the space in public transportation from the existing one. At present, 80 lakh people travel per day in suburban trains and BEST buses. We are creating an infrastructure which will have 1 crore 20 lakh people capacity to travel every day in metro trains. So it will just double the capacity in the city of Mumbai in next 4 to 5 years of time. And since this capacity will get doubled, the ease of travel, the social distancing norms and everything will be more than easy to maintain in the public transport system. So the time has come when we have to not discard public transport, but we have to think of public transport in a safe mode. Like public transport has to be safe, healthy travel of this thing, and at the same time the hygiene level, the sanitation level of public transportation, like metro and all, have to be maintained at the highest level. So we are aware of that challenge and we are working towards that. In addition to that, MMRDA is also working for multimodal integration with the metro stations, where the non-motorized transportation system like cycling, the pedestrianization of most of the roads are being done and implemented with each and every metro stations. So the work from home concept is now, if it's going to be because most of the private sector has also have also realized that work from home has become very, very efficient for them. They don't have to give space in the office, but at the same time, and people don't have to commute, and at the same time, they are able to work. So most of the offices have found that work from home is more efficient system. in most of the cases. So, but people who are working from home, they have their own problems and issues. So now the new concept in urban planning is coming, and that is that walk to work. From the concept of work to home, now a new concept in urban design and planning is coming up, which is walk to work. So wherever you are living, nearby area, you have a shared workspace. You should have a shared workspace where you can go and from there get remotely connected to your own office and work from that place, which gives you a sort of a working environment, but at the same time does not give you the disturbances of your family when you are working from family. So that type of walk to work and work from home, these are those people who can afford work from home in a very quiet atmosphere is well and good. But those people who are not able to do that and still they have to work, for them the new concept of walk to work has become very, very important. And from that point of view, the urban planners need to develop more mixed use land plannings in their planning process, where most of the mixed land use planning will be important, where you can create such workspaces where people can just walk or cycle to these places and from there can join remotely to their offices and work. That type of concept is now emerging, and we are also including such type of concept in our daily work. So this is the implication what we have learned, and from the pandemic situation, we have started emphasizing the cycle track system. So we have started developing cycle tracks. We on the expressways also cycle tracks are being planned now. We are in the planning and implementation phase of more cycling in Mumbai. More facilities for pedestrians also we are doing it, and this way we are trying, because people suddenly realized during lockdown period that cycling was much more safer and much more effective way of controlling pandemic. At the same time, people were able to move it. So these are the issues which I want that your these are the pointers on which the whole conference can and probably should deliberate, and hopefully they'll find whatever I have said useful for them. Thank you so much, 𝙖𝙪𝙬, and I'm really thankful to IDC and ORF for inviting me for this conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajeev sir. I think you really charted out how the government actually looked at the pandemic, and that insider's view was very interesting for people who are looking at things from outside. Also, it's interesting to know how MMRDA actually adapted to various technologies and the changes that we have been adapting in the private sector. The government too has adapted those changes in working and governance. Also, it's very interesting to know the shift of policies and governance and planning, and of course walk to work. I think that is something that we've been hearing globally, and it will be really important if we can do this in Mumbai. And we have an interesting session on the built environment today, and I will ensure that we take up this topic and deliberate on it further on. Thank you, sir. Thank you for those kind words.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes. Now, can I invite 𝙤𝙤𝙪𝙬𝙪, General Manager, Israel Planning Administration, to give her keynote address.